So today is a series discount. So what this means is this. Notice here, companies have like catalogs, and so instead of trying to reprint their catalog over and over again, because you think about the expense for that, right? If you tried to change your catalog year in and year out, it'd be an extraordinary expense. Especially if basically you're keeping the same products, your prices might fluctuate just a little bit. Well, instead of reprinting that over and over again, they would do something called a series discount. And that would basically mean from one year to the next, your amount of discount might change, or what they're going to charge you might change. But instead of reprinting the whole thing, they would just send out like a piece of paper that would tell you about the discounts that you're going to get in the following year. That makes sense? So instead of, a big old thick thing like this, they might just have a paper or two to fax to you. So it's a big difference, okay? So this is kind of trying to show you this in a quicker version. And basically, how this would happen would be, this is what they would show you right here. So in a series discount, they would give you 3 percentages that you could use there, all right? So basically, to figure out a series discount, you're basically just going to figure out your discount, but you're going to do it 3 times. Okay, so if I was going to figure out some kind of discount, how would I do that? I would take the regular price and do what to it? Multiply by the discount, and then I take that answer and subtract. So basically, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to just do that 3 times. But you cannot just go and say, okay, so if I have 20, 15, and 10%, I can't just go and add them all together. I can't just say that I have 45% and take that off. That makes sense? Okay, so you really have to go through the process of actually figuring it out. So let's look at page 433, letter A. We're going to do it this way because the next part is all about the other things. So we'll show you one of these. If you want to do another one, then we'll do another one of this. All right, so in letter A it says, what are the invoice price and the amount of discount for a kitchen cabinet? So again, do you understand those 2 vocabulary words? The amount of discount is just how much I'm going to get off. The invoice price would be what? What I actually have to end up paying, right? Okay, so make sure you understand that, and that's going to be more important in the next part, but it still comes into play in this part. So we have a $260 item, and our series discount was what? Could you tell me those percentages?
30, 20, and 10.
30, 20, 10. Okay, so they're going to give you 3 things. Well, all of ours are 3. All right, so basically what you're going to do is then start at the very first one, and I'm going to take 30% of that $260. So I punch that into my calculator, you get what? $78? So from here then, I'm going to take my original amount, and I'm going to subtract that first amount, that discount. So 260 minus 78 gets us 182. And then I'm going to go and do the next one. So I take that times 0.2. And I just do the exact same process that we did in the first one. So I multiply by the percentage. So I get 4, 16, 36, 40. And then I'm going to come back, and what my last number was 182. So I continue to keep using the new number though. Don't go back to the original. Sometimes we went back to the original on some of the things we did. Now we just subtract again. I gotta think. 140 what? 45.6. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is take it times my last one. Okay, so 0.1. And so we get what? $14.56. And then we're going to come back and use the $145.60 again and subtract my final discount. So my overall price is how much? 131.04. So, again now, what is this answer? This is my invoice price. So the first part of it asks you to find what? Didn't it ask you to find the discount price or the amount of discount? Find the invoice price and the amount of discount. So how do I find the amount of discount? So I can add up all these, or I can just simply take 260, my original, and subtract it from my invoice. And those two numbers subtracted should give me my grand total of how much discount I got, right? Now? $128.96. Alright? So, series discounts, does that make sense? Anybody need to do another one of those kind?
Yes.
So how come they don't just find that 1%?
Good point. That's what we're going to do in the next part. Okay? So, if you didn't hear what he said, well, why can't we just find 1%? That's essentially what we're going to do. Okay? But it's not as easy as just adding them together. Okay? So, as Tregan just asked, why would we want, if you were a consistent client of somebody, you might have that consistent discount series, and so they would end up figuring out what your single discount is so you can do it a little faster. Exactly right. And that's what the next part is. So we okay with that? So series discount, you basically just do it 3 times. Okay? So now we're going to do what Tregan asked, and we're going to try to find a single discount equivalent. So basically, they're going to give us the same information, but basically we're going to try to figure out what one discount rate was, and then we can just use that right away. All right? So there's 3 different ways that you can do this kind. The first way is called the percent method. Now again, this one, kind of a little confusing at times. So this is something that you might want to really pay attention to. All right, so when you talk about the percent method, the list price, the price that they give you at the beginning, you got to think about that as being 100%, right? If I didn't get any discounts, I'd have to pay the whole thing. And if I paid the whole thing, I'd pay 100% of what the price was. Make sense? So we're going to try to figure out what our percent method is of taking the 3 numbers that they give us. So in our case, 20%, 10%, and then 5%. So it looks just like our other problem. Now we're going to try to find one rate that all those basically group up into. Okay, so my percent method is this. I'm going to take the first one, and again, I'm always going to start at 100, and I'm going to take the first percentage and just subtract it straight up from 100, because again, 100 is where I'm going to start from, right? So 100 minus 20 in our case is 80%. Easy enough? Okay. Now, the next one in line, I'm going to take 10% of whatever's left over. So again, I'm going to take 10% of whatever was left over, 80%. So essentially, if I want to take 10% of 80%, don't think of it as 80% necessarily, just think of it as what's 10% of 80. So essentially, 10% of 80 is me taking 0.1 times 80. And if I punch that into my calculator, I get what? 8%, right? So now, this answer goes right there, and we're going to subtract it again. So if I take 80 minus 8, I get what? 72. And then I'm going to redo this process again with my last percentage. So I'm going to take, 5% now, or 0.05 of 72. I'm going to take 0.05 of 72.
Did you just make up percents up, or was that like...
This one was given to me in the book, or in the problem. Just like these were given to me in the problem. Okay? What'd you say, Donald?
40.
It's 3.6.
3.6. So my last one would be what? 68.4%.
This seems very.
So now here's where you got to make the decision. Okay? They're going to ask you again to figure out what's the amount of discount and what's your discounted price, or what you're actually going to take. So this is where Tragan's question was, well, what's my 1%? Okay? Would it make sense that I'm going to get 68.4% off? Probably not, right? So whatever you get as your final answer here, when you do this process, you need to take and subtract it from 100%. So what's 100 minus 68.4? 31.6%. This right here would be my single percentage that would have gotten us to this exact same problem in the first problem, or the exact same point, sorry. Yeah, so it's a lot of work in this. So again now, if they ask you for the discount, I would use this number. If they ask me for the list price or the invoice price that I'm going to pay, I would use this number. Now you can use the 68.4% all the time. You just have to realize what you're figuring out. So I could use 68.4 and I could get a number, but I have to realize that that's my invoice price that I'm going to eventually have to pay. And if they ask me the discount, then I'd have to go back to the original amount and subtract whatever I figured out there. So these two numbers right here are both percentages that I'm going to use with my original amount. So if we went to the problem, this is where we're looking at my bad page. Okay. No. So this is letter C over on the other page. See letter C, they said 20, 10, 5%, and the list price was $900. So here's my list price. So I'm going to take my $900 times 0.684, and if I punch this into my calculator, this should give me my invoice price. And the invoice price again is the price we pay. So, did somebody punch in 900 times 0.68?
615.6.
615.6. Okay. So how much discount did I get? So if this is the original list price, and this is how much I'm going to pay, what do I do with those two numbers? Subtract them. 900 minus 615.60 gets me what?
284.4.
284.4. And this is again what? The amount of discount. Okay? So this one right here, a lot of work, right? Go ahead.
So are they like the same thing?
Essentially, what? This and this problem?
Yeah.
Essentially, you could use this and do it to the 900 and get the exact same 615.60.
So why would you just do the first way then? Like the
Because if I would figure this out one time, I could use this percentage every single time that I would have those three numbers as a single discount. So if I did this once, I would know that if I had this combination of three percentages, I know my 1% that I'm going to get off is 31.6% off as a discount. And so then I could use that over and over and over again.
But that wouldn't be showing your work every time.
You're right, but this part isn't going to change ever. This part is just going to change when you apply it to that $900. So that's where your numbers would change, and then you would want to show the work here. But this work right here is never going to change, and that's what Tragan's question was. Well, why can't we just do it one time? This is us doing it one time from here on out. So every single time that you got an invoice and it said 2010-5, then I would know that I could use 31.6 or 68.4 to find my answer, instead of doing all that math. So I'm cheating the system in a sense. But I have to do that one time, for sure. So realistically, in the problems, yeah, I might as well do this, because it's probably less work, actually. But in a business, I would want to do this method, so then every time that Tragan got his and he got these percentages, he knows that he can use this and it's going to take him like 2 seconds. So basically, he would have a table that would just list all this stuff for him, in a sense. That makes sense? Okay. So, do we need to go through this process again?
Yes.
Okay, so this is where we gotta go back. This is where I screwed up and we should have done this part first. So go back to example 2. So we're gonna take a pair of hiking boots with a list price of $80. Okay? And what is the percentages they give us? 20, 10, 10. And we're looking at $80 boots. Okay, so again, notice that my percentages aren't the same. So realistically, I need to go through this process one time, and I will find out what these percentages are, and then I can use them over and over again. All right, so how am I going to use these percentages? What do I do? 100 minus 20 again, so we're still at 80. And then we're going to take 10% of 80. And then we do that over here? Yeah. So we're going to have what? 8. And then we get 72. Then I'm going to do, now this is where it changes. So I can cheat again a little bit by using the math over here. But now I'm going to do 10% of 72 instead of just 5% of 72. So what's 10% of 72? Should be $7.20, right? So my grand total is 64.8%. Notice it was 68.4. Now it's 64.8. So again, every single time that I have these 3 percentages, I know that my overall percent is either 64.8 or take 100 minus 64.8. 100 minus 64.8. 31.6%.
35.2.
35.2.
I was gonna say that's the same as the last one.
Alright. Okay, so now, what does it say in example 2 over here, letter A? It says, to find the single discount or, so, find me the invoice price and find me the amount of discount. So if I want the invoice price, I'm going to use the bigger one. If I'm going to find the discount price, I'm going to use the little one. So let's find the discount price. Somebody take 0.352 times 80. How much? So $28.16 is what? Yeah, this is how much discount I get. That's my discount. So what's my new invoice price? I'm going to now pay $51.40. This is my invoice price. Let's. Okay? So, a lot of work in just that one little time, right? But essentially, the next one and the following one, maybe a little easier. Okay? So let's do one more and then we'll come back tomorrow and finish it up.
Would you get the same answer if you were to do it this way?
If I did it this way?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what Tiff said. So, realistically for us, it's probably just easiest to do this method because it's less work. But as a business guy, so if you were gonna start a business, you would have this over and over again. And so you would probably just do this once and then you would have it readily available. Okay? The next part is a little simpler. It's this table method. So look at the table in the middle of the page. So the only way that I can do the table method though is if I have a table. So if I don't have that green table in the middle, I can't do it. All right? So look at example B right above it. It says, now we're going to do the table method and we're going to do the exact same problem. Okay, so they give us 20, 10, 10. So look how easy this is. The first number, go across the top. So the first number is 20, so I go over to 20. And then the next two are 10, 10. Go down the column and find 10, 10. And what's my number? Look.
Oh, that's a lot easier.
0.648. Right? So if I can have the table, essentially I would set that table up for myself and have it readily available for me when I got my invoice in and checked it to see if it matched up. So basically they made that table by doing all of this math over and over again to every single combination that they would possibly have. Or the most common ones, right? So basically they're saying the common ones are 5%, 5%, or 5%, 5%, 5%, and so on and so forth. But does that make sense? And this table is really easy, right? But you got to still remember, what does that 0.648 tell us? Well, this tells us the new invoice price when we multiply it to the original amount. So if they ask us how much discount did I get, I still can use this number, multiply it by that. I would have got my 5184 first, and then I just subtract those two to get my 2816. That makes sense?
Yes.
So it's a simpler process because they did the math and set up a table for you, essentially. So that's what we would really want. So tomorrow we'll come back and do section C, and then you can have tomorrow to finish the homework.